So today I'm going to talk about conformity in education based on my last blogs. And we're going to look at 4 different types of conformity that are seen in education: uniforms, rules, lessons and punishment. Okay, so firstly, uniforms. I'm sure you'll agree it's part of a school life, apart from where it's not, in like America obviously. But what I'm looking at is, where there's no uniforms, does that mean there's extra stress? Like you have to choose what to wear like every day. As a girl, not being sexist, there is a guy in the audience, but as a girl, surely, you know, we worry about what we have to wear and how we look, especially in social peers. And does this actually affect our learning and our academic achievement? Okay, so there are a couple of studies about this, and they found that this one, I think, was in Kenya, the first one. So the first 3 points are all by, I won't try and pronounce them, but the same study. And they found that implementing school uniforms reduces absenteeism by 44%, which is actually quite high. They looked at this the year after uniforms were implemented. And for those schools that didn't have any uniform, this rose to 62%, which again is really, really high. Also, the test scores were raised by 0.25 standard deviations, again the year after the uniforms are taught. So it does actually affect like how often you turn up, and also your academic achievement, which is quite good. Another study found that implementing uniforms had a positive effect on behaviour. By this, the teachers perceived lower levels of gang presence when there was uniforms, again the year after they were implemented. Okay. Again, academic achievement improved. There's another study. And it kind of says to me, like, in the previous slide it said that people are behaving better, students are behaving better. So does this mean that they get more work done and therefore results improve because they're more calm? I don't know, but that might be something. But again, there's another study that achievement is improved. And also this study was not only like looking at one school, it was quite a lot of schools in rural and urban environments, so it was really quite a broad study. However, now we go to the flip side about studies that this isn't the case. And you see, again, I won't try and pronounce the names, but there's 2 studies here that there is no effect on behaviour or attendance. They go completely against what I just said. And in fact, there's a negative impact on academic achievement. So I thought, how can you have such like vastly different things? And I thought maybe it was because might be a reason that if you're not be able to wear what you want, you're not able to express yourself, so you feel quite kind of suppressed, so maybe you feel a bit kind of down and you don't do as well, so that might be a reason. Okay, so overall, I'm just going to quickly summarise uniforms. There is a case of both sides. As you see, there are studies, academic achievement is improved and also it decreases. It might decrease stress, I think so personally, but then again it might restrict your individuality when you're all wearing the same. So maybe that is why some of those studies say that it badly affects people. And also you could argue it like restricts their freedom of speech. I know it sounds a bit over the top, but it could be said. So yeah. So now to look at rules. So I was thinking about rules, and I think that there are 2 types. There's the obvious school rules, but also social rules in a school. Now, obviously, social rules kind of every day, like we don't just run around doing what we want, like going crazy, all kind of conform to social, not stereotypes, but, you know, social norms. But in schools, there's the added social rule of listening to the teacher, like obedience to an authority figure, which immediately everyone goes, Milgram. So, in case you don't know about Milgram, don't go to the next slide. So in case you don't know about Milgram, I'm sure you all do. He was the guy that did the electric shocks, and yeah. Anyway, okay, carry on. So Milgram found that, you know, people obey an authoritative figure way beyond what they should. Like these people were giving shocks just because someone told them to, and they would have killed the participant. However, personally, I think that in a school this might go the other way, because you know, you're always going to get the cool kids who like go against what the teacher says and fights back all the time, you know. And I actually think it could go either way. So I haven't really looked at studies on this, but from personal experience, I think it goes both ways. which may lead to negatively affecting the student's learning. If you have, the one that always answers back and everything, they might do quite worse off because they're not listening to the teacher, not obeying what's going on. Okay, yeah. So, social responsibility now. By this I mean giving people leadership positions like students and making them responsible for other students. So it was found that social responsibility can develop new cognitive abilities, like it makes you think about others as well, promotes positive interactions not only between pupils but also to teachers as well, and it gives you a motivation to achieve. Like if you're in charge of people, even if it's just a little thing, like you're in a group work and you're in charge of a group, you're going to want to spur others on, so it gives you a good incentive. Okay, and the last thing about rules. Thornburg found that children were more likely to obey rules if they seem reasonable to the children, which makes sense, but we don't really think about it. If I was in school, I just do what the teacher says. But maybe if you force a child to do a stupid rule, like one they don't agree with, they're going to resent you and they're going to go against it and they're not going to be very cooperative in anything, and that could affect their learning. He also found that etiquette rules were valued as the least important, so being polite, that's not very nice in schools. Apparently the kids didn't care about that, but there we go. So again, to sum up rules quickly, Milgram said that we obey an authority figure. However, I think maybe we could go against that in a school just to kind of stand out socially. And also, maybe making up rules, teachers could discuss them with older pupils because, like Thornburg said, they're more likely to obey them if they agree with them. Okay. So now lessons. So I'm sure, again, you all know of Ash's study, where there's lines, and just if you don't, there's lines, and there's a group of people, and one of them is the real participant and all Confederates, and they ask them what the real length of the line is, and they all say the wrong answer on purpose, and we see if the one person actually conforms or goes what they think. So Ash found that 75% of all the participants he tested conformed at least once, which is ridiculously high when it was so obviously wrong. So I was thinking, how would this work in lessons? How would this work in lessons? Now I would think that, if you've got adults conforming 75% of the time, imagine a child in a classroom. Again, there's massive social pressure, so and children are in general more easily influenced, so you're going to have, I think, a lot higher conformity rate than that. Okay, so I actually think children should be constantly encouraged to say what they think, regardless whether it's right or wrong, because this way it builds their confidence as well. And also it teaches, like the teacher would be able to see what standard they are and everything. So Crutchfield found that those who conform have less leadership ability and ego strength. You can see where this is going, as in they're easier to control. So by having a lot of conformity in lessons, the teacher is easier to, the children are easier controlled by the teacher, and therefore they can get through more of the syllabus. That could actually be a positive thing. So to sum up lessons again quickly, so although a child's confidence might be affected by conformity, like they might not have the confidence to stand out, for the teacher it's easier to control the pupils, and therefore they might get through more material, so it's good and bad, I think. Okay. So lastly, I'm going to talk about punishment. This is a very quick one. So going through the three things that I've just gone through, uniforms, rules and lessons, punishment is like what you get if you don't do them. So if you wear the wrong uniform, your skirt's too high, you get sent to detention. If you don't obey, you get sent to detention. So I think that punishment can be seen as a form of ensuring that conformity happens. So that's why I'm talking about it. So is punishment a positive thing because it maintains this conformity, which I've said before has positive effects on education? So you could say immediately that punishment is a good thing because it maintains this conformity and things are better. Yeah. However, I'm talking about massive punishments here, not just sent to the naughty corner. I'm talking about exclusion, like being suspended and expelled and everything. And again, I'm not going to pronounce the names because it's too hard, but they found that exclusion and punishment are the most common courses of action in response to misbehaving. I'm sure, again, we all have dealt with stuff like this, like being sent to detention, I'll say it again, or being suspended. I've never been suspended, I was good. But there we go, stuff like that. So although it's like a preventative, you know, if you say you do this, you'll get expelled, it's not long term. It's just an immediate effect. Your behaviour doesn't change long term, which is actually a bad thing. And they also found that physical aggression was the main reason for suspension, but also that the actual suspension made the students feel angry, and therefore they would be more likely to do it again. So it's a vicious circle, and I don't really know how to stop it, to be honest. And that is why this last study found that more exposure to exclusionary discipline, there was more high school dropout rates. The more people got really bad punishments, the more like, stuff it, I'll just give up, which is not a good thing. Okay, last one. So to quickly summarise, is conformity beneficial in education? So we looked at uniforms, rules, lessons and punishment. And I don't know about you, but I think that all the schools can't be wrong. A lot of schools have uniforms, everyone has rules and lessons and punishment. So this has been going on for generations and generations. So I don't think they can't be wrong, basically. They still follow the same format, although some don't have uniforms, which is debated. Although there are cases describing the negative effects, I think overall, personally, looking at all the evidence and everything, I think conformity in these forms in education improves education. That's my talk. No. Any questions? No? Yes.